Let me demonstrate the round-trip process mining approach by integrating Apromore with MuleSoft RPA Manager. I've got here an event log from field service management that I extracted from Field Service Cloud using the MuleSoft Connector for Apromore. As I double-click on that event log, Apromore automatically reverse engineers the process model behind that log, so I can see essentially what activities are performed, in what order and by whom. So I can see that I've got a bunch of activities for creating cases, work orders and service appointments, then for scheduling the service appointments, setting up the dispatch and then handling the job. Here I've got some high-level statistics about this event log. I'm looking at nearly 20,000 work orders that follows about 1,000 different pathways. And I can really expose the complexity of that process by moving this slider to show more and more arcs that are less frequent. So basically, I'm showing all the different ways in which these activities can be performed in order to handle end-to-end work orders. And definitely this process appears way more complex than the way we perceive it. Let me bring this back to 10%. So if I look at the duration statistics, I can see that a work order takes on average 1.3 weeks. However, I have peaks at 3.7 months, and that's definitely too long to handle a work order. So if I want to find out where I'm wasting most of my times, I can switch the overlay to duration, and Apromore quickly highlights sources of bottlenecks. I can see here that I've got a very long activity, work order scheduled, that takes on average 19 hours to be completed. So let me look inside this activity to find out what are the roles that perform it. As I switch into the role perspective, I can see that this activity is not only performed by a dispatcher, which is the typical role I would expect to schedule a work order. There are also front office, operator, and system administrator involved. And I see that the operator in particular is the role that is taking the longest, 2.25 days on average, to perform instances of this activity. As I switch the overlay to total frequency, I can see that about 3,500 of instances within this period of time covered by the log, which goes from the 15th of October 2022 to the 8th of February 2023, so that's 3.84 months, 3,500 instances are performed by the dispatcher, but a great amount, nearly 1,900, are actually performed by the operator. So the operator is the slowest role. Definitely that has an impact on slowing down the overall duration of a work order. So what I want to go and do now is to switch back to the activity perspective and ask Apromore to turn this process map into a BPMN model, because the BPMN model is what I'm going to use as input to simulate possible interventions, such as automating activity work order scheduled in order to remove the bottleneck. So I've just switched it to BPMN model, and now I ask Apromore to save that BPMN model into the user workspace. And as I do that, I ask Apromore to also discover automatically the simulation parameters. So that means that Apromore is now extracting from this event log all the simulation parameters that allow me to simulate different interventions. That is, for example, the arrival rate. So for example, I see that I receive on average one work order every 35 minutes. That has also to do with the statistical distribution of the duration of the various tasks. So for example, if I look at work order scheduled, I can see that that activity on average takes 19 hours, as I saw before when I discovered the process map. And I can also see that Apromore has discovered all the roles association with activities. For example, work order schedule is performed by dispatcher, front office, operator, and system administrator. And if I go to the resource view, I can see for each role how many FTEs I've got and what is their cost per hour, as well as all the assigned tasks. So what I'm going to do now is to save a new version of this model and start playing with an intervention. I want to automate work order scheduled with a bot. So I go to the resources parameters, I create a new role called bot, I set its timetable to 24/7, and I start with one instance of a bot, and I estimate a course per hour equivalent to $2 per hour, and I assign the bot to task work order scheduled. So when I go back to work order scheduled, I now need to remove all the human resources if I want to model an automation, an assisted automation. So let's do that. I remove dispatcher, front office, operator, and system administrator. The last thing that I need to do on work order is to estimate how long it's going to take for a bot to execute an instance of this activity, now that indeed the activity has been fully automated. So I estimate that this is going to take 30 seconds instead of 19 hours, because clearly this is now going to be done by a machine rather than a human being that is going to automatically schedule the work order for me. Okay, so I'm ready to simulate this what-if scenario. Every time I run a simulation, Apromore generates an event log. So I save this event log as what if one bot, and when I go back to my workspace, I will see that event log. And now I can basically use any process mining capabilities available in Apromore to assess the goodness of that simulation scenario. So beforehand, I simulated the assist, so I can use it as a baseline to compare my what-if scenario against. So there are different ways in which I can compare two scenarios. The easiest one is probably to run an on-the-fly dashboard that Apromore builds for me to be able to compare different scenarios, in this case the assist in blue and the what-if with one bot in red, and understand the merits of the what-ifs. So the merits, in this case, of automating that activity work order scheduled. So if I see that on average I'm completing a work order in 1.4 weeks, and it has an average cost of $4,355 per work order instance, I can see that I've drastically dropped that end-to-end duration from 1.4 weeks down to 3 days by automating the single bottleneck that I had in that process. And now the cost has also almost halved to $2,500 per instance. And what's more is that I can see that I've indeed reduced significantly the utilization of the dispatcher resource, which was heavily utilized in the execution of the work order schedule task, from 76% down to 16%. And that's because now I've started utilizing the bot, hardly utilizing it, so plenty of room there to push in more work in order to take over some of the work that was done by the dispatcher beforehand. So now I want to register this automation idea with MuleSoft RPA Manager. To do that, I can ask Apromore to generate a PAR, a Process Automation Assessment report. So I click here, and I need to specify the assist and the to-be log. For assist, I'm going to use my baseline, so the log that Apromore generated by simulating the assist process. And for to-be, I'm going to use the what-if scenario where I captured the automation of that one task work order scheduled with one bot. I write a report name like work order scheduled automation, and as a report format, I choose that of MuleSoft RPA Manager. Once I authenticate into MuleRPA Manager with my credentials, I can introspect the template. I'm going to use the default one, and the categories. I'm going to associate my automation idea with the category Apromore that I've created beforehand. In the task evaluation section, Apromore reports the statistics of cycle time, average cost, and frequency per month of both the assist and the to-be, which is going to be embedded in my report. Plus, I can ask Apromore to provide the assist and to-be statistics of the specific tasks that I'm intervening on by automation. And I'm going to use work order scheduled here. Then I ask Apromore to generate the description, and Apromore will provide in natural language a description of the impact and the change made. So here it says shortly that I applied a bot that is costing me $2 per hour, and that by automating in an assisted fashion this task with a bot, I'm reducing the average duration from 19 hours down to 30 seconds. And then I can also see the impact on average frequency per month and average cost. The final section is to specify qualifiers and benefits to better characterize this automation idea with respect to other automation ideas that I may consider. As I press submit, this automation idea is going to be registered into MuleSoft RPA Manager. So once I'm in the RPA Manager, I can go to the evaluate processes and I will see my new automation idea popping up. Here it is. So at this stage, I can edit that. I will see the description, all the key statistics, the qualifier, and also a process matrix that allows me to qualify the goodness of this automation idea with respect to the qualifiers and the benefits. If I'm decided about this, I can now approve this, send it to approval to a manager, so that then this automation idea can be lined up for implementation in my digital backlog.